So this is part 2 of Rethinking Thassa. We're going to pick it up with Merrill Harbinger. 3 colors and a blue for a 2/3 Island Walker. And when he enters the battlefield, you may search the library for a Merfolk card, show it to everyone, shuffle, and put that card on top of it. Too bad he doesn't have flash. Merrill Regere. 2 colors and a blue for a 2/2. Other Merfolk creatures you control get +1/+1. No Island Walk, but they get bigger. Whenever you play a Merfolk spell, you may tap or untap target permanent. So I've only got about 20 Merfolk creatures in here, which is not enough. So that's why it either goes all in Merfolk, complete rebuild to Tribal Wizards, mono blue, or I take out the wizards, most of the Merfolk, and make it just sea themed, just sea monsters. Krakens, octopus, leviathans, other interesting sea creatures. So Mistcaller. 1 blue for a 1/1 Merfolk wizard, sacrifice it. Until in turn, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it was not cast, exile it instead. Now the kind of thing missing there is flash. Without flash, I mean, it just sits there and your opponents kind of know what's going to happen if they start putting things into play without casting it. Meeresjäger. So Sea Hunter. 2 colorless blue for a 2/2 soldier. 3 tap, search a library for a Merfolk, put it into play, and then shuffle. I think the quote in English is something about they just wriggle because they're scared. I can't remember. Rootwater Thief. 1 colorless and a blue for a 1/2 Merfolk. Spend a blue, gains flying until end of turn. Whenever deals combat damage to player, I may pay 2. If I do, I search the library for a card and exile it. So this is a fairly efficient way of getting rid of threats preemptively before your opponents can draw them. Of course, if they had them in hand or in play, you're just out of luck. Citadel Tracer. 1 colorless blue for a 2/2 Merfolk wizard. 1 colorless blue, tap 2 untapped wizards you control, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So she's done some good work a few times, but there's not enough wizards, not enough Merfolk to really make it reliable. So again, rethinking the deck. Thada Adele Inquisitor. In the sea or the Merfolk configuration, she definitely stays. She's a powerhouse. 1 colorless blue for a 2/2 Island Walker. When she deals damage to a player, combat damage, I can search their library for an artifact card, and I may play that card until the end of the turn. So either I can take out something I can't cast just to get rid of it, exile it, a la Rootwater Thief, or I can get something cheaper, cast it, and then I get to use it. So, the commander, of course, was Thassa. And where would Thassa be without her emissary? Her enchantment creature crab. So, 3 and a blue for a 3/3. Big deal. Except, when Thassa's emissary or enchanted creature deals combat damage to player, I can draw a card. So that's pretty nice. For 6, which is kind of high, I can play it as a creature enchantment. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3, and of course that ability of whenever it hits somebody, I get to draw a card. Alright. This So, Thieving Skydiver. 1 and a blue for a 2/1. Kicker X. X cannot be 0. Flying. So, one of the very, very few creatures in here with flying. And when she enters the battlefield, gain control of the target artifact. The converted mana costs X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving. I wasn't paying attention. And playing game, put her into play. My opponent had a skull clamp. So I grabbed a skull clamp. And then I read the card. Oh, yeah, okay, so she gets equipped with it. So she dies the skull clamp. But at least it's mine now. And I draw 2 cards. Reading is key. Tidebinder Mage, blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When she enters the battlefield, tap target red or green creature and opponent controls. That creature does not untap as long as you control Tidebinder Mage. Wake Thrasher. This guy can be just a massive threat. So 2 colors and a blue for a 1/1. Whoop-de-doo, right? Whenever permanent you control becomes untapped, Wake Thrasher gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So you can tap, say, 5 lands and a couple of creatures, and he's an 8/8. Bam! So he can be a lot bigger threat than he looks pretty easily. Walking Sponge, the meme card in the deck. Colors in a blue for a 1/1 Sponge. Tap target creature loses flying, first strike, or trample until end of turn. So if I do the sea theme, that's definitely staying. Now, I've got an infinite combo in this deck. Here's the key card to it. Wandering Prophets. 6 for 4/4 Merfolk Wizard. Champion of Merfolk. When this comes into play, I have to take a Merfolk I control, exile it underneath Wandering Prophets. Whenever it deals combat damage to player, I may sacrifice a Merfolk. If I do, take next turn after this one. So, the combo is equip the Wandering Prophets once it's ready to attack with Sword of Light and Shadow. It would have a Merfolk under it, and then I would need another Merfolk to sacrifice, and then another Merfolk. So, him with Sword of Light and Shadow. Attack, he deals 7 damage to... I'm only going to attack people that can't block him. Thassa can make sure they can't block, but get him through 7 damage. I sacrifice a Merfolk, so I'm going to get another turn, and then raise dead, bring a creature from graveyard to my hand. So on the other turn, I'll need another Merfolk to sacrifice, and basically I will swap sacrifice one Merfolk, bring the other out, cast it, and essentially I will get all the turns. So, infinite turn combo. When I told my friend about it, he's like, I hate infinite combos. But because it takes 5 cards, and I only have a few ways of searching for them, he said, if you can pull it off, I wouldn't mind at all. But I don't think you can pull it off. And he's right, I haven't. Anyway, Water Trap Reaver. 2 colors and a blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls, so no color restriction. And that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So you get a temporary reprieve from whatever you're tapping. Disjointed Thassa. 2 and 2 blue for a enchantment artifact. Whenever creature I control deals combat damage to a player, I may draw a card. 1 and a blue tap, creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. Which sometimes that can be tricky, sometimes it can make sure that, depending on the turn order, you can make sure somebody cannot block you, because everything they have will become tapped, unless of course they have some creatures that have vigilance, or they cast another creature. I think I've only used that secondary ability once. It's, of course, in there mainly to draw me cards. So, back to the tapping down theme. Bluster Squall. 1 for an instant. Tap target creature you don't control, or for 2 and a blue I can overload it and tap all creatures I don't control. And then cast Tameo through her secondary ability and draw a bunch of cards. Alright. This, as anybody who's played with it or against it know, is a very annoying card. It can be very frustrating. Capsize. 1 and 2 blue. Bounce. Target permanent to its owner's hand. Now you can hit lands. They, nowadays, of course, they specify non-land permanent. But back in Tempest, you can hit a lot more things. And buy back 3. So 6, essentially, bounce something back to its owner's hand, and put that back in yours to do it again next turn. Or whenever the hell you have 6 mana. Counterspell, 2 blue, counter target spell. I have the Mercadian Masks version because it fits the sea theme, the art does. Cryptic Command, 1 and 3 blue. Choose 2, counter target spell, or return target permanent. Okay, this one hits lands too. Alright. Or tap all creatures opponent's control, or draw a card. Okay, I had not really realized it hits lands too, because it's usually not relevant. Usually, of course, you counter something and draw a card. That's, I'd say 90% of the time, that's what people do with Cryptic Command. So in Snare, a friend of mine did this for me. He gave me 3 cards that he altered in his magnificent artistic style for Christmas. So 3 and 1 blue, or I may return 2 islands I control to my owner's hand instead of paying 3 and 1 blue. Tap all creatures. You're entering your attack step. I think you're going to attack me. Pick up 2 islands, tap everything down, try again next turn. Foil, foil. 2 and 2 blue. I may discard an island card and another card rather than pay the spell's mana cost, counter target spell. So if I'm drawing a lot of cards, that becomes pretty easy to cast it for the alternate casting cost. Inundate. So this costs quite a bit. 3 and 3 blue. Return all non-blue creatures to the owners. Actually, this would have been really fantastic in that Ward Elish Norn game. But again, 100 cards, they don't always come up. And I, by design, don't have a lot of search cards because I like the unknown of wondering what's going to come up when. Gush. 4 and a blue to draw 2 cards, or return 2 islands you control in one's hand instead of paying that mana cost. I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody cast it for the 4 and a blue. I think everybody I've ever seen play Gush picks up 2 islands to get those 2 cards. I'm sure there's somebody that's paid for it though. Narset's Reversal. This is where I started to go really wrong, I realized. I took something out for Narset's Reversal. I do not remember what it is. And there was a couple of the cards that did the same thing with. And that's about the time where the deck started to become unsatisfactory. So, blue, blue. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. Then return it to its owner's hand. I may choose new targets for the copy. So, thinking about it, this is kind of, if somebody does Blasphemous Act, I would like to put it in their hand, but I don't want to make a copy of it, because that's why I'm countering in the first place, is because I don't want it to go off. Same with Wrath of God, same with the Damnation, anything like that. So maybe this is not as useful as I thought and should come out. Overwhelming Denial. 2 in blue, blue, or if I or a teammate has cast another spell this turn, it only costs 2 blue. For a counter spell that can't be countered by spells or abilities. Right to Replication. 2 blue, 2 colorless. Kicker 5, so 9. Put a token onto the battlefield as a copy of target creature. If it was kicked, put 5 of those tokens on the battlefield instead. So in the last game, the Wart player had Goblin Chirurgeon out. Yep, Goblin Chirurgeon from Fallen Empires. He was a new player, but he was very inquisitive and asked a lot of questions, so I want to see what I kicked Right of Replication on the Goblin Chirurgeon to get either ways of regenerating Galena, or to see if he would sacrifice the Goblin Chirurgeon in order for this to fizzle. Well, he didn't ask, so, which kind of surprised me. So afterwards I told him, you could have sacrificed Goblin Chirurgeon and nothing would have happened. He said, why didn't you tell me that when you're casting the spell? Because I didn't want you to do it. I wanted to see what you would do, and I thought you would ask questions. You'll never make that mistake again. Submerge. 4 and a blue, or if an opponent controls a forest and I control an island, I may play without paying its mana cost. Put target creature on top of its owner's library. Another one that would have been nice in foil, but they're expensive now. So, Wash Out. This is the last of the actual cards in the deck. Then we'll get to the lands. 3 and a blue. Return all permanents the color of your choice to this owner's hands. So, Wash Out red. Wash Out blue. Of course, if I wash out blue, that affects me too. But sometimes that's not a bad thing. So, the non-basic lands. Castle Vantress. Enters battlefield tapped unless I control an island, which I'm pretty much going to have, unless it's the first and only land I have in the opening hand. Tap, add blue. 2 colors, blue, blue, scry 2. Desert a temple. I can add a colorless, or for 1 I can tap a land. Yeah, it's just kind of in here. And no matter what configuration, I'll probably keep it because it is useful enough sometimes. Geisterveto. I butchered that, I'm sure. So, Ghost Quarter. Add 1 colorless or sacrifice Ghost Quarter, destroy target land. That player searches for a basic land, puts it into play, and shuffles the library. Gets rid of Gaia's Cradle, gets rid of Serra's Sanctum, gets rid of problems like that. Gets rid of Maze of Ith. Hellamar Depths enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of the library, then put them back however you choose. And, of course, once it's untapped, you can start using it to add blue to your mana pool. I love adding blue to my mana pool in this deck. High Market. Add 1 colorless or sacrifice creature, you gain 1 life. As most EDH players know, this is pretty much in here to save anything from Swords to Plowshares or any other exile effect. Mutavault. So, if I go Wizards or Merfolk, this will stay. If I go Sea Creatures, it'll come out. Add 1 colorless, or 1 it becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn, which, if I have sea monsters, is not going to be very impressive. Reliquary Tower. I have no maximum hand size. Sometimes that's amazing, sometimes it's just, it's there. Or add 1 color to my mana pool. Sapricent, the main reason I have this is the art. I love that Rebecca Gay art there. It's just so peaceful. Just, it's nice to look at. I was able to get a foil for a good price. So it comes into play tapped. And you could tap it to put a storage counter on it. Or you could tap it and remove any number of storage counters from Sapricent Cove. Add 1 blue mana to your mana pool for each storage counter removed this way. So if you get it in the first few turns, and you start building up on it, it's pretty cool. Temple of the False God. Tap, add 2 blue to your mana pool, but only if you have 5 or more lands. Nice that it counts itself. Terrain Generator. Add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. 2, tap, put a basic land from your hand into play, tapped. So if I'm drawing a bunch of cards, I need ways of getting more lands into play, entering my hand. So a Terrain Generator and a Walking Atlas serve those purposes. Thawing Glaciers comes into play tapped. And it's going to turn off.